Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bianca and we're here to do my 24 books to read in 2024. Okay, I realize I need to stop doing the same amount of books per year because I never finish it. Mostly because I pick the books at the beginning of the year and by the end of the year I don't want to read them anymore. But some of these books are repeats from last year, and that is because I'm still interested. Because what happened was at the end of last year, I did try to complete my 23 books to read in 2023, but some of the books on there were really chunky, so I was like, well, I'm not going to finish those. And then the other ones I started reading and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in this, but I don't think this is the right time to do it. So I'm like, I don't want to force myself to read them just to finish the TBR and then not like them because I read them at the wrong time. So here we go, 24 books. That's 2 books a month, and I didn't read any of them in January, so I'm already 2 books behind. But we'll see how this goes. One of them is on my TBR for February. I might try and pick up another one. One I'm like 30% of the way through, and I put it on this list to make myself finish it. But we'll see how that goes. So these aren't in any order. They're just randomly pulled off my shelves and plopped in 3 big piles. So I'm just gonna pick one off and start there. This first one is one I've had for years and I just have never picked it up, but the concept is so interesting and I still am very interested in this book. I've just never picked it up. So this is The Book Jumper by this author, which I cannot pronounce her name whatsoever, so I'm not even gonna try. But this is, as you can see, I read the prologue, that's it. Amy Lennox doesn't quite know what to expect when she and her mother pick up and leave Germany for Scotland, heading to Lennox House, her mother's childhood home on the island of Stormsay. Amy's grandmother, Lady Married, insists that Amy must read while she resides at Lennox House, but not in a usual way. Amy learns that she is a book jumper, able to leap into a story and interact with the world inside. As thrilling as Amy's new power is, it also brings danger. Someone is stealing from the books she visits, and that person may be after her life. Teaming up with fellow book jumper Will, Amy vows to get to the bottom of the theft at whatever cost. So, like I said, sounds great. I mean, she jumps into books and she can interact with the characters. This very much reminds me of one of my favorite middle grade stories, which is The Book Wanderers by Amy James. So, same concept, very interested. This next one is a YA series that I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about. I believe it's just a duology, but from what I've heard, it's really good, and I'm really interested in picking it up. So this is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. This is like a YA fantasy romance. I don't know too much, but this is the gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. And then pretty. So with character art. So I don't know much, but we'll just read the little blurb at the top. Go to the Sealy Court, find the Queen's secret portal to enter the most dangerous place in Fairy, find my sister, and rescue her from a power-hungry king. Child play. So, yes, it's about I guess it's about a girl going to the fairy court to rescue her sister who's been kidnapped. I don't know. But, like I said, don't want to read too much into it because I don't want to spoil myself, but I believe this has a love triangle. I'm not sure, but very curious and very interested to pick it up. Which I'm going to say a lot because I'm interested in picking all of these up and I don't know how to end when I talk. This next one is the only nonfiction I have on this. This next one is the only nonfiction that I have on this list. And it's one I've had for years. I'm going to try and talk over it. She's just going to continue going. It's one I've had for years, so I really do want to pick it up. This is The Art of the English Murder by Lucy Worsley. So this goes from Jack the Ripper and Sherlock Holmes to Agatha Christie and Alfred Hitchcock. So I first heard this book, I believe it was Meg, but it's been on my TBR for a long time on my shelves, and I have wanted to pick it up, so I'm gonna make this the year that I pick it up. It is a nonfiction about the evolution of the traditional English murder and reveals why we are so fascinated by this sinister subject. So, very curious. Do want to pick this up. And who doesn't love a good nonfiction about actual murders in history, right? Then we have another book by an author I love. I've read her other 3 books, but this was her, not her newest release, but the one before that, and I have not picked it up, but I've been very interested. This is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, who also wrote Sorcery of Thorns, Mysteries of Thorn Manor, and An Enchantment of Ravens, both of which I really love. And I am very sad that I missed the Mysteries of Thorn Manor edition of this book, the Fairy Loot edition of that book, because I really wanted the matching. I wanted the matching books, but I can't. But I can't get it. But I didn't get it. I'm very sad. So I don't know much. So I believe this is about a woman who, obviously I'm not going to get the synopsis from this copy because this is a gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. But I believe she is possessed by a demon or something, and this presence is the only way she can save, I don't know, her town, her world, whatever. I don't remember. But I do know I want to pick this up. I love Margaret Rogerson's writing. I definitely want to reread Sorcery of Thorns this year. So this is on my list. Next we have the second book in the series that I started last year. It's a long backlist. It's a long series. I'm only on the second book, but I do want to finish it before I move on to the next series by this author, and that is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I did read Throne of Glass, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't great, but I've heard that this gets better as it goes, and I do want to read the Crescent City series, of which the 3rd book came out yesterday. So I gotta get through this first. So this follows, what's her name? Selena Sardothian, who was a prisoner in a working prison until she is released by the Crown Prince so that she can compete in the King's Championship the King's contest in order to become the champion assassin or whatever. And she was an assassin, which is why she was in prison. And that's what I got so far. No spoilers. So, second book, I briefly started it last year. I only got to chapter 3, but I loved ACOTAR, so this is the next series on the list. And I have all of the books, so I need to read them. I have all of Sarah J. Maas's books, except for the most recently released. And I do want to reread ACOTAR this year, even though I just finished it last year. I want to reread it again. But moving on, the next one we have is another fantasy. I have a lot of fantasy. I've discovered I love reading fantasy books. Most of the books I read last year were fantasy. So we're going to continue with that because I enjoy them. So this one is the first book in a duology by Vanessa Len. This is Only a Monster. I believe this is about a girl named Joan who likes her super cute coworker Nick, who asks her on a date. And then Joan goes spinning through time. Her family aren't just eccentric, they're monsters with terrifying hidden powers. And Nick isn't just a cute boy, he's a monster slayer. She battles Nick, then meets another monster from another heir to a monster family named Aaron Oliver, who hates her own. So, enemies, the lover, love triangle. He's trying to kill me. Don't want to read too much into it because I do want to read this. This is another gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. And I want to read this and then get to the sequel. So there's that. This is one that I have heard so much from Meg with books. She loves the series and I've started it and I was enjoying it, but I put it down and I never picked it back up. So, oh, I'm over 50% of the way through this. Wow, I didn't realize I was that far in. This is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. I loved this. It's about the daughters of those classic, horror scientists or whatever. So it's got, the daughter of Jekyll and the daughter of Hyde and then the daughter of Rappaccini, Moreau, and Frankenstein. And then it's also got Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. So I really want to read this. It's the first book in a trilogy, which also has European travel for the monstrous gentlewoman and then the sinister mystery of the mesmerizing girl. So I do want to finish this and continue on with it because I am interested. This is so much fun to read because while you're reading the story, you're also getting like interjections from the girls as they're writing it, and it's just so much fun. So I am on page 245 and 14. So that's the end of chapter 13. But I do want to pick this up again because I was enjoying it so much when I was reading it, and I don't remember why I put it down, but I stopped reading it. Let's move on to a different, that was again a fantasy, so let's move on to a different genre. This is a thriller, I believe. This was released last year. I got it in my book of the month, and I've heard great things about this author, and the concept interested me, so I was like, okay, let's pick this up. This is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. I've heard amazing things by Kate Alice Marshall. I haven't really heard anything about this book specifically, but I still want to pick it up because, again, like I said, the concept sounds great. I believe in this one, it's a group of girls that when they're 11, they sent a killer to prison. They were heroes, but they were liars. So what I'm getting is something happened in those woods. They lied about it. Now, years later, it's coming back to bite them in the butt. Again, it's a thriller. I don't want to go too much into it because I want to go into it blind. So that's what I'm getting just from the little plot at the top of the synopsis. Here we have another, this is a horror more, or like a paranormal mystery type. I love this author. She's become one of my favorite authors. I've read multiples of her books, and like all of them are 4 stars for me. 4 stars. Yeah, I think 4 stars is the most, like 4.5 stars. So I don't know why I haven't picked this up. I've started it, I just have not finished it, but I've loved her books. So this is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Simone St. James is one of my favorite authors, but this one is dual timeline, which is how most of her newer works are, and it takes place in New York, where I believe her name is Emily. So it takes place in 1982 with the disappearance of Viv Delaney, and in 2017 with Carly investigating the disappearance of her aunt, Viv Delaney. So it sounds really good. All takes place at this motel, the Sundown Motel, where Viv was working and she disappears one night. And now creepy things happen there. Well, they happened there when Viv was there. But I love Simone St. James's books because every book has a paranormal twist. Whether it's a ghost story or something mysterious happens. All of them have a paranormal twist. And I love that. So, and all of them have like a touch of romance. It's not a main part of the plot. I wouldn't really call it a subplot. It's just a small touch. So, looking forward to picking this back up. I got to page 49. So, we'll see how that goes. So this next one, again, a series I've heard a lot about. I really want to get this last book in this edition, but I have The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. And these are the Fairy Loot editions, which are gorgeous. I have the second book, which is The Gilded Cage, also in the Fairy Loot editions, and I want to get the third book in the Fairy Loot edition too. But I want to see if I like this book first before I go spending more money on another book that I may not read. So I believe this one, the main character is in prison, but she's the prison healer. And then the leader of the rebellion, who I believe is a queen, is put into the prison and she's like fatally injured. And it's the prison healer's job to heal her because she has some trials to go through, but she knows that the queen won't be healed in time, or princess or something. The queen won't be healed in time to go through the trials, so the prison healer goes through them for her. I believe this has a touch of romance or something. But it says, "Don't let her die. We are coming," on the back. So, like I said, I've heard great things. I don't want to read too much into it. Ooh, black pages. But I do want to pick this up. Again, like I want to pick all of these up. This next one is the second book in a series. I believe I read the other one 2 years ago. But the author just came out with another book that's part of this world, and I want to read that, so I have to get through the next 2 books before I can read that. So this is Kingdom of the Curse by Carrie Maniscalco. I love Carrie Maniscalco. I love the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I love the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So I love those two series, so I do want to continue. This is Kingdom of the Curse. This is the second book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. Kingdom of the Wicked follows twin sisters, Vittoria and Amelia. And when Vittoria is tragically murdered, Amelia sets out to find her killer and ends up summoning the Prince of Wrath. So we're following her story in this one, because no spoilers for the Kingdom of the Wicked. Let's take a little break from fantasy and do some romance. This next book is the first book in an interconnected series that I have the first 3 books for, but have not read them. I don't even know if they're interconnected, but they're all kind of have the same vein. This is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. It is the first book in the Ever After series, which has Scarred and Wretched, which are the 2 books I have. Yes. And then there's like 3 more after. But this one is based off of Peter Pan, and these, the villain gets the girl, pretty much. But so this one follows James, who goes by Hook and is setting out to destroy his enemy, who is Peter Michaels, and by doing that he goes after Peter's daughter, Wendy. So it's kind of like a enemies to lovers dark romance. But I've heard great things, so I do want to read this and then read the other ones. So there's that. We're gonna dip back into fantasy for a bit and do City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I do want to finish this series. This is the first book. I want to do this series so I can read her other books. But I think I'm going to do it in, I don't know if I want to read it in publication order or if I want to read it in, there are different orders to read this. So if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. Which way do you think is the best way to read this? So this is a classic, like, YA fantasy series. I don't know if I really need to give you a synopsis, but it's about Clary Frey, who heads out to a club in New York, only to witness a murder, and she runs into some shadow hunters. And I believe her mother disappears. Well, I know her mother disappears, but I didn't know if it was in the synopsis, and I didn't want to say it if it wasn't in the synopsis, but there you go. And we continue on with the fantasy with Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. And I want to read this first because my brain does not like me to skip things. I have to go in order. So, Caraval first, then Once Upon a Broken Heart. But this one follows 2 sisters who escape their tyrant of a father to attend Caraval, and then one of the sisters goes missing, and it's part of the game of Caraval for the other sister to find her. And there's romance. There's that. And I have started it. I'm... How far am I? Chapter 9, which is page 81. But I want to show you my cute little bookmark. Look at that. Caraval. Very cute. But I do want to continue so I can move on. We'll continue with fantasy. So this is more of a romantasy. This is the 3rd book in a series. I read the first 2 and love them. And I've heard the series goes downhill from here. And I'm really scared to pick up the rest of them. But I have most of them so far. I have the next book in the series, and then I have 2 books in the, like, companion prequel series. So I need to get moving. So this is The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the 3rd book in the Blood and Ash series, which I've talked about Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire on my channel a lot. So go check those out. But I'm really scared to pick this up. And I have started it. And my bookmark says 232 pages, but I don't know if I did that. So I'm just going to restart it. I'm just scared. Because I've heard some not so nice things about this series. And I loved the first book and the second book so much that I don't want to ruin the rest of the series for myself. So there's that. But if my love for the series isn't clear, it's got its own shelf on my bookshelf. So, which I'm going to have to figure out what to do with once I get the most recent releases. But we'll get there when we get there. Moving on, we're going to take a little trip away from fantasy for now and move on to horror. I have heard amazing things. I have started it, and I knew I wanted to annotate it, so I had to get a physical copy, and it took me a while to get a physical copy. But I finally got Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I got this for Christmas. My mother gave me some money and said, get what you want, and I got some books. Which she really should have expected. I don't know why she was surprised. But this is a mermaid horror story about the Marianas Trench. So in this one, 7 years ago, the Argentis, a tar ship, set off on a voyage to the Marianas Trench to film a mockumentary bringing to life ancient sea creatures of legend. It was lost at sea with all hands. Some have called it a hoax, others have called it a tragedy. Now a new crew has been assembled. Some seek to validate their life's work. Some seek the greatest hunt of all. Some seek the truth. But for the ambitious young scientist Victoria Stewart, this is a voyage to uncover the fate of the sister she lost. I want to read this, and I guess it's not multimedia, but what I read I loved, so I do want to pick this up, restart it, and finish it, and I do want to annotate it. So I'm excited, very excited. And I've heard great things, and who doesn't love a creepy horror story about killer mermaids? So this next one is, I believe it's a mystery thriller. So it's brilliant. Okay, I'm not going to read it before I tell you the title. It's Night Film by Marisha Pessel. And I've heard great things. This one is multimedia. So this one does have like articles and things in it. If I can find one, I'll show it to you. Like this. So, brilliant and haunting, this is the gripping story of one man's search for the truth about the life and death of a beautiful young woman. Ashley Cordova, the mysterious, gifted daughter of the reclusive film director Stanislas Cordova, is found dead in an abandoned warehouse in Lower Manhattan. Her death is ruled a suicide, but veteran investigative journalist Scott McGrath suspects otherwise. What happened to Ashley? As McGrath tries to uncover the truth, he is drawn into a spellbinding quest in the underworld of the Cordova family's life. With breakneck pace and dazzling inventiveness, Night Film will hold you in suspense until you turn the final page. So again, this is when I started on Kindle and realized I wanted to read the physical copy, and I just love this cover. It's gorgeous. So I got this one. My bookmark has me at page 26. And I love the format of this. I'm just going to pick a random page. Like, it's fun. So there's that one. And we'll hit a little YA mystery. This is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Caballero. I've had these books, and I have the whole series. There are 4 books in the series. I have all of them. And I've had them for years. So it's a YA mystery about the great-great-great-granddaughter of Sherlock Holmes and the great-great-great-grandson of Dr. Watson. So it's Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson. And I started this book. I was enjoying it. Oh, that's where that bookmark went. Why is it in this book? I've been looking for this bookmark for a long time. Found it. So I got to page 70 and I was enjoying it, but I want to complete it because if I don't, I'm going to have to unhaul it because I've had them for over 4 years and I have not read them. So there's those. But it's a cute little mystery series. Equal parts tender, thrilling, and hilarious. So I'm assuming Charlotte and Jamie end up together in the end, but I do want to finish them. Next one, we have another series that if I don't read, I'm going to have to get rid of. This is this was a recommendation from Riley, and she loves this series, or I believe at least this book, and from what I heard, it was really good. So I wanted to pick it up. So in my infinite wisdom, I got the whole series. It's a trilogy. I got the whole trilogy before I read the first book. So this is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, and it's a romantasy, I believe. One young woman must survive intrigue, betrayal, and passion in The 100,000 Kingdoms. So, this was N.K. Jemisin's debut novel. I find that really awesome because she's huge in like science fiction and fantasy. So this follows a young woman who is outcast from the barbarian north, but when her mother dies under mysterious circumstances, she is summoned to the majestic city of Skye. There, to her shock, she is named an heiress to the king. But the throne of the 100,000 Kingdoms is not easily won, and she is thrust into a vicious power struggle. Sounds cool. I believe this also has to do with like mythological gods and whatnot. So we'll see. I do want to pick this up though because, like I said, I've had it for a while. I have the whole series. It's time. Next, we have another romance that this is like a contemporary romance. This is Twisted Love by Anna Huang, another book where another situation where I haven't even read the first book, but I have all of the books in the series. So this is like a enemies to lovers, brother's best friend type thing. He'll burn the world for her, which it says right on the cover. He has a heart of ice, but for her, he'd burn the world. So this follows Alex Volkov, who is a devil blessed with the face of an angel and cursed with a past he can't escape, and Ava Chen, who is a free spirit trapped by nightmares of a childhood she can't remember. So I have started this. I started on Kindle because these books are all on Kindle Unlimited, but I wanted to annotate it. So I went out and bought all of them because I have no self-control. Okay, so there's that. So this is on my February TBR, so I do want to pick this up. Next, we're back into fantasy, and I believe, nope, there's one more contemporary, but we're back into fantasy. This is fourth to last, so I've done 20 books. This is 21. Her Majesty's Royal Cousin. Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. This is the gorgeous Waterstones edition with the bright pink cover. So pretty. I do have the next book, the Shadow Cabinet, also in this cover, in this edition. I gotta get the third one. I don't even know if it's out yet though. Book buying problems. So this follows a group of friends who grow up to join Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and then years later they're all separated and only one of them is still a part of it. So mystery. I believe it's also sapphic. So mystery. I don't know anything else. I don't want to know anything else. I just want to read it. And because I'm such a loser, I also bought these in the paperback copies so I wouldn't mess up my special editions, even though I have since come to the conclusion that I cannot do that anymore, and I'm starting to read my special editions. But that is life. I came to that conclusion a little late because I'd already bought them. But another fantasy I want to read. This next one has been really popular on BookTube and Instagram, and the second book just came out, so I do want to read this. This is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the, again, gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. And I've heard great things. I started it and I was interested, but I put it back down and I want to read it again. So, gorgeous, gorgeous edition. Reversible dust jacket, pretty end pages. So I believe this is about a kingdom where there is a plague or a curse, a fever, and in most cases the people are killed, but in this case Elspeth, I believe that's what her name was. Yep, Elspeth was hidden, and as a result of this fever she has this presence in her head, and they set out on a quest or something. Like I've said before, I don't want to delve too deep because I want to go into it a little bit blind, but I've heard great things. I've also heard great things about the sequel, which is Two Twisted Crowns. Two Twisted Crowns? I believe it's Two Twisted Crowns. So I do want to pick this up this year, and I'm very excited. So 2 more books left. This next one is a contemporary romance mystery type deal. This is the second in the series. I loved the first book, started the second one, wasn't really excited for it, and then I found out that the author is releasing a third book, and I want that one. So to warrant buying that one, I have to buy this. I have to read this one. So this is For Aunties in a Wedding by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I loved Dial A for Aunties. It was such a good book. I had so much fun. So I do want to continue. I wasn't too excited about this one. I started it, I got to chapter 3 and I was just kind of bored, so I put it down. The third one is coming out this year and I do want to kind of continue with that one, so gotta read this one first. So this follows Dial A for Aunties, where we have Meddy, who is set up on a date, a blind date with someone by her mother and her aunts, and you know, something happens and it just sets off this whole thing. But she ends up running into her old boyfriend who she dumped because she was worried about introducing him to her family. And it's a lot of fun, and I want to read this one. So I want to read this one now. But I think I'm going to do a reread of Dial A for Aunties because I loved Dial A for Aunties. So the final book on my 24 books to read in 2024 is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. And this book is the Fairy Loot edition. But this book was on my list last year. And like I said, I did start reading this one at the end of last year in order to complete that list. But while I was interested, which is why it's still on this list, I wasn't in the mood to pick it up. So I got to page 22, which is chapter 2, and I was still interested. I still wanted to read it. I love the concept. It sounds really interesting. It takes place in 1920s Shanghai. There are these two gangs, of which the leaders are Roma and Juliet, who are old lovers and are now enemies. And then there's this mysterious thing that's killing people. So I am interested. It's a great concept, but I wasn't in the mood. So it's on my list again. I cannot wait to get to it. And here it is. And it's part of the duology. If you don't know, the other one is Our Violent Ends. And then it continues on to the Foul Lady Fortune series, which is part of the world, but not connected. So there's a lot. And I have both books, so I need to read them. So those are the books I have chosen for my 24 books to read in 2024. Do I think I'm going to get to all of them? Probably not. I've never finished a yearly TBR. Do I hope that I will get to them? Most definitely. I hope to at least get to half, but we'll see how that goes. So let me know in the comments down below. Have you read any of these? What are your thoughts on them? Do you have anything that you are focused on getting to this year that you want to read really bad? I don't know. Let's put a dragon for all the fantasy on my TBR. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and don't forget to pick up a good book. Bye.